Harvard professor Michael Jensen's article, Integrity, Without It, Nothing Works, 2009, references below, argues convincingly that who we are is our word, nothing more and nothing less. And when our word is not whole and complete, neither are we. He also asserts that when our integrity is in, it is a state in which we produce 100 to 500% increase in output or productivity. We inherited, when we were born, certain cultural discourses that inform us of what is valuable, what we should strive for. To name a few, for example, beauty, fame, fortune, power. Some of us reject that idea and are just as constrained by the negation of what society says. We do just the opposite. We become anti-beauty, anti-fame, anti-fortune, and so on. It's all the same discourse. It's all the same trap, and you know where it ends. You've seen the pictures of what happens to the beauty queens over the years in the media. They're happy to show you the stark contrast of people we swooned over who are now, what do we say? So, whichever way you wound up being, it's not your fault. No one gave you any alternative until now. I'm not advocating for you to give up all your worldly possessions, never wear makeup, become ignorant, and buy a moped for transportation. That is just another kind of prison. For a deep dive, see Speaking Being 2019 for this business of a constraint that we wound up being. Let's work on another possibility. This could be a relief for those of us who consider ourselves to be our looks, financial status, education, acumen, our titles, or even lack of any of these things. And I think that's all of us. After all, we can never be attractive enough, have enough money, or possessions, or know enough, or have the highest job title, or whatever that is for us, that we put together as a 5-year-old. Back then, it was the fastest or most expensive car, the biggest, baddest truck, a harem, Barbie or Ken looks, or something just the opposite. We know all this. It's not like I'm saying anything you haven't heard of before. Robert DeRopp in '68 wrote The Master Game, drove home this point. If you're brave enough to endure more insults, it makes good reading. Take the case now that who you are is your word, and your word is defined as Jensen's 2009 article on integrity distinguishes, and see what opens up for you. Jensen defines our word as 1. What you said. Whatever you have said you will do or you will not do, and in the case of doing it on time. 2. What you know to do. Whatever you know to do or know not to do, and in the case of doing it as you know it is meant to be done and doing it on time, unless you have explicitly said to the contrary. 3. What is expected of you? Whatever you are expected to do or not do, even when you are not explicitly told. And in the case of doing it on time, unless you have explicitly said to the contrary. 4. What you say is so. Whatever you have given your word to others as to the existence of something or some state of the world, your word includes being willing to be held accountable that the others would find your evidence for what you have asserted also makes what you have asserted valid for themselves. 5. What you say you stand for. What you stand for, whether expressed in the form of a declaration made to one or more people, or even to yourself, as well as what you hold yourself out to others as standing for, formally declared or not, is part of your word. 6. The social, moral standards, the group ethical standards, and the governmental legal standards of right and wrong, good and bad behavior in the society, groups, and state in which one enjoys the benefits of membership are also part of your word, unless you have explicitly and publicly expressed an intention not to keep one or more of the standards, and is willing to bear the cost of refusing to conform to these standards. I assert you can find one or more of these missing in each and every upset that exists in our lives, in your life, in my life. Number 3 is particularly problematic for us human beings. Imagine if someone close or important to us has an expectation of you or me, and we unknowingly violate their expectation. What happens is not all that pleasant for either party. We may protest that it is not fair because we didn't know what they expected of us. However, that's how we are caused in the matter of the upset. We need to let people that are important to us know what they can expect in order to avoid these upsets and make our expectations of them explicit. You can imagine the impact on performance and output of our word and what happens when we violate the integrity of our word. There are reasons why we don't practice this, and you can find them in that same article by Jensen, or conveniently at the Social Science Research Network, link below. The good news, which is covered later in these articles, is that while we will never be able to keep all of our promises, and our integrity is always going out, we can always be in integrity by simply acknowledging when we are not in integrity and cleaning up the resulting mess. That restores our word. That gives honor to our word. We honor the word that we gave, and that's what integrity is, honoring your word, not always keeping your promises, but honoring that you did give the promise and cleaning up the mess. There's another extraordinary benefit that is not very obvious. More will be said about this in later communications. But briefly, we have distinguished ourselves from our psychology. That is to say, from our emotions, our moods, our feelings. We have total dominion over our word, in contrast to our emotions, which arise seemingly at random. What we distinguished above gives us complete and total control over our lives, rather than just being jerked around by our emotions, or waiting for some emotion to inform us what to do or not do about something based on how we feel about it and what emotions we have about it. As we develop our integrity muscle, this will become more evident as we gain more power. Reference to this is in the course materials for the Being a Leader and Effective Exercise of Leadership by Erhard and others in 2022, links below, and where they came from. In the future, we will be exploring emotions and where they came from. See Barrett's book on how emotions are made, written in 2018, below. Thanks for listening. Like it if you do. I appreciate any feedback as we continue on this journey.